what can we do to become indispensable so that AI doesn't take your job if that was actually a
Yes.
concern? And the answer to that is make art.
Hey, everybody, welcome to this week's The Jeff Heilman Project. It's so good to have you here. I just wanted to re emphasize that this is January, it's 2025. We've been going through the top 4 stresses in America for 2025. The first one we went through was the rising cost of inflation. The second one that we went through
Jobs.
was job insecurity. And today's episode is going to be all about AI and your concerns that AI is going to take your job. That was the number 3 top stress
Is it
plaguing.
really?
Yeah, number 3 is
Oh my
that the
goodness.
concern that AI is going to replace the
I
jobs
cannot even believe that.
of writers. It's going to well, it's a very real thing. If you just click through the thumbnails on
If you're
YouTube
a
and most of the
student of
commenters.
history, people will realize that every major technological advancement that has come along, whether it's the wheel, fire,
Mhm.
electricity, internal combustion engine, mass transportation via railway, I mean, everybody's life gets better.
Well, before we get started with that, how's it going with you? How's your back? You've been
Yeah,
you've been a little stiff
yeah,
lately,
I'm
but
struggling for sure. Lot of back pain, and that it wears on you because you can't fight lower back pain 24/7. You gotta rest or drink alcohol or take painkillers or sleep or do something. But it seems like it's getting better, and keep going to the chiropractor. So yeah, a lot of stress, but it's good to be reminded that of what it's like to be healthy.
yeah.
I think it's a sobering reality for reminding us to be grateful that for the times when we're not in pain.
Well, and case in point, what we're talking about here with the concern of AI and the jobs being replaced by AI, ain't no AI gonna be adjusting your back.
No, my chiropractor's job is secured.
So then we go back to, I don't remember what year it was. I don't have my laptop in front of me, but when was it Ken Blanchard who wrote Who Moved My Cheese, or remember when that was that book? I think it
Ken
was.
Blanchard and Spencer, whoa, the co-authors.
Yes.
I'm not up to speed on my
Well,
co-author.
Ken Blanchard in the 90s,
Yeah.
I want to say to early 2000s, wrote Who Moved My Cheese?
Yep.
And I just love the way that that book comes together, and it discusses the emerging technology, and that we need to actually recognize trends and be able to move with them, or we're going to get left behind. And in this case, with AI coming, you can either jump on board with it, or you can fight it, or you can like run away from it. But it's definitely here. And tell me some of the last week we talked about Chat GPT and just the rapid growth for it. But where do you see, as somebody who's, I mean, we're all about bringing the humanities into the corporate world, and it would appear that AI might be, maybe the concern would be that it's removing some of the humanities because there's not a lot of high tech, or it's an artificial high touch. Like, where do you see, if I'm gonna, let's play it both ways. If I'm gonna jump all in to AI, what should I be doing right now?
That's a good question. Think about it. 3 things. If I jumped into AI right now, what should I be doing? Number 1, you should be reading about it. Reading about the use cases, what people are doing. Number 2, I think you should go and find either ChatGPT or Bard or Grok or any of these tools. Bard is Google's tool. Grok is the one for Twitter. ChatGPT's that's the OpenAI app. Start asking it questions and watch the way that it handles it. It's not a search engine. It's a faux persona, a faux avatar, which has access to everything. I had a conversation with ChatGPT, and I asked it to embody. I had one conversation where I asked it to embody Pablo Picasso. Had an hour-long conversation with Pablo Picasso. Had an hour-long conversation with Alexander the Great. Had an hour-long conversation with Leonardo da Vinci. And you can talk to this entity as if it were an amalgamation of the sharpest people who've ever led the best battlefield
So where
commanders, the
is
best
Chat
politicians.
GPT getting its like where is it getting its information from in order to
It's
sound
it's
like
from
or
from all access of all written records, everything visual, everything verbal. It's got language engines in it that do natural language processing. It's got cognitive analytics and big data analytics engines. It's got all the stuff that Google can get access to,
wow.
the entire internet. I mean, it's imagine if you could ask a single source or front end to go and reference all the available known information known to man and get an amalgamation for the simplest response to what how do I bake the perfect souffle, and why do souffles work, and where's the tolerances, and it'll tell you to the degree. The egg whites need to be a certain degree. They need to have a certain viscosity. Whip them for a certain amount with a beater at a certain amount of time. And if you're anywhere outside these tolerances, your souffle is not going to rise.
Okay, but see, that's where I get creeped out is that you're saying that, like, yeah, you can do that and that's great. And I'm totally on board with that because I think that's awesome. But then now you're telling me you're like asking it, okay, now, but do it in Julia Child's voice.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
gonna,
we're gonna do it
yeah,
like
like
this.
why? Like what is the benefit? Like, why go to that degree in the artificial intelligent thing? Like, I don't,
Well, because the
that to me makes
subconscious,
me go,
our subconscious mind can't tell the difference
yeah,
between
I know it
a
can't.
perceived conversation with Leonardo da Vinci and an actual one.
And so to me, that feels like that's almost crossing the line into something that probably shouldn't be
Crossing the
dabbled
line.
into. This voice that sounds like Leonardo da Vinci is going to be saying things that some guy named Jack wrote on Reddit that he heard about Leonardo da Vinci.
Well, if you compare it against all the available written records, you're going to have a metadata that moves toward a certain proclivity. And then within human behavior, within certain algorithmic tolerances, you're going to have access to what it would probably be like, up to and including the actual accent that I asked ChatGPT to use, which was a Tuscan accent from the 1500s.
Okay. I mean, I get it, and I mean, it's like people who, the last person I wanna be is somebody who's gonna resist, 3D printers
I don't
who can
understand the
now print.
resistance. I think the good thing, though, is that you can help me understand what the resistance is. It's like if somebody who had never seen a car before saw a car and was able to get in it and start driving immediately by voice. Like to go from they've only ever walked and now you're in an autonomous vehicle that drives itself and all you have to do is tell it where you want it to go. And it goes there and it's free.
Well, I think that that's
Why would you ever walk again
okay, because,
other
well,
than
from
exercise?
what I've watched, and I have actually watched commentators, and I've actually, read articles about the negative aspect or the hesitancy towards going all in AI and in AI artificial technology is in your example, you said that you're getting in a car. Well, that car is only going to be driving based on actual proven roads that it has by satellite and GPS have imprinted into the maps in its system, and it will only drive on the roads that were real, like actually there. Whereas in AI, when you're asking it to educate you on Leonardo da Vinci, like we were talking about, it's gonna take everything, including Reddit, including somebody's, Facebook posts, including the somebody who claimed to be somebody's great, 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 great lost uncle or aunt. Like, it's got all of the information, and therefore some of it's true, some of it's false, some of it's imaginary, some of it's actual proven fact. And so then because of all of that, you don't know necessarily what you're getting. But the car on the road, that's proven. The artificial intelligence is not necessarily proven because it's not filtering through fact. And then you're leaving up to something what's fact to determine what's fact and what's fiction. So there's been some hesitancy there that I've seen about whether or not it's trustworthy because it's including everyone's
Well, imagine this. Imagine if you could, and this is what I used to do when I was at IBM 10 years ago. Imagine if you're a doctor and you have a patient who has a not so rare form of cancer and it's in a fairly advanced stage, not stage 3 or 4, but let's say stage 2, and it's starting to metastasize, and you're just a primary care physician. Your job is to be the first point of contact for some 300 patients in a clinic that come to you when they're not feeling well. They do some blood work, they find out that the person has cancer, and now this doctor has to make the right decision for a patient they care about, who they will then lose as a payer slash patient if they're in a blended practice where they just pay the doctor 300 a month or something, and then they don't need insurance. How are they going to get access to enough information to make certain that they're doing the right deal? Especially when you look at the fact that the volume of data that's out there is all biased based on whose pharma
Mhm.
is behind it. But what if you could take, let's say, 3 million patient records with the PII or Personal Information Initiative data abstracted from it? So you can't see who it is. You can just see their blood work, their genomes, what kind of cancer they had, and if they lived or if they died, and what they took. And you could take 3 million people's worth of data in 1 second and say, these 4 drugs given this often in this amount based on this weight gives this patient the bell curve sweet spot for the highest chance of surviving cancer. And you could pay for that service, or potentially the service would be free.
Do you think that doctors are gonna be, I mean, we're gonna need surgeons, but do you think that the first level of, like, diagnostic doctors are gonna become replaced by
Replaced?
artificial intelligence? Like, as far as, if I can just
How
go
would they
into
be
it
replaced
like, if
in the
I could
model
just
that you're
go to if
seeing?
I could go to
I'm just saying
a
I'm a doctor and I want the best tools so that I can heal the most amount of patients. And if I don't use those tools, I'm going to get sued for malpractice or my patients die.
I'm just saying
Or
if
if
you
I
could
do
go to
use
a
the
clinic,
tools, then I'm right
if you can
most
go
of the
to a
time.
future clinic and just say, "These are my symptoms,"
Yep.
and it's in front of a robot or it's in front
Yeah.
of a thing, and they do, like, a body scan, take your
Body
temperature
scan,
and
temp,
everything.
pulse, blood work, up, 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 up.
So,
Yep.
yeah, and then it'll then all of that gets done through a automated system,
Yeah.
and then it comes to, "Oh, well, you're gonna need surgery or you're gonna need
Yep.
XYZ," and then it just goes to a human surgeon, or it goes to even a, I guess, a computer with the little robot arms could perform the surgery because they do a lot
Well,
of that.
would you allow a computer with robot arms to do surgery on you without a person running that robot?
I mean, it sounds like that could be the hesitancy that people have for jumping
Well,
right into
would you
AI.
do it? I wouldn't. I'd want to have a person operating that robot, personally. See, the way the people are looking at it like the robots are taking over. And the truth is that they're going to take over some of the automated functions for things. But it's kind of like the $6 million man, right? Steve Austin, $6 million man.
Yeah.
We have the technology to rebuild him, right? And they make his legs stronger and his arms stronger. This is like bolting on a prosthetic superpower for your mind
Mhm.
that will allow you to calculate yield curves, find product market fits, build products, bring businesses to market, ramp them, find customers, and exit the business and create capital, create products, create drugs. I mean, right now to get a drug through FDA approval, it takes something like 5 to 7 years and $3 billion of cash to do it. Well, what if it didn't? What if you could actually take the genome sequencing that exists and build custom products like Jessica's pill? Have you seen my pills? Oh, I'll pick you some up at the store. No, no, no. No, these are my pills. They're made from my genome. They're
Mhm.
based on my blood work. They're only for me. Nobody else can take them. Nobody else won't do any good, like custom pills just for you. And have those pills done, FDA approved, done, shipped within months of finding of a new thread of a disease. Like that's a level of care that's physically impossible today, and it's going to become as normal as a Zithromax
Yeah.
pack or penicillin or what have you. So, are there downsides of AI? Certainly, there are weaponization functions for AI, but that cat's out of the bag. They're already going to do that. So it's not about being afraid of it. It's about figuring out what they're going to do and taking evasive action to prevent it. It will be weaponized. There will be AI and metadata and hacking on credit cards and computer systems and bank accounts and all that stuff. But those are bad actors who are using the tools to do bad. The volume of good actors is far outweighs the volume of the bad actors. And did cars make the world a better place or not? Way better. Well,
Mhm.
yeah, but it burns fossil fuels. Well, today, but they also convert to electricity, which can be a whole host of ways that can be done. So, are cars good or cars bad? The development, the improvement of cars has added to the quality of human existence orders of magnitude. Same as the internet, same as a smartphone. I mean, my Apple Watch, I'm just this little device is a form of artificial intelligence because it's counting my steps, my tracking. It knows my blood pressure and my pulse rate and can give statistical data as to my health, and it shows me losing weight and it counts my steps, and it like we're already using these tools, and to be afraid that the robots are going to take over because
Well, I
people
don't know
spend too
that
much time watching crazy
I don't know
movies.
that they're as concerned. I mean, I'm sure that there are those that are concerned that they're going to take over the planet, but the main thing that the American Psychological Association was highlighting as a stress-inducing factor is that um, AI would be replacing the jobs that people are having, and like we've got her name is Nat, and they
Marsha.
listen to the Nat and Marsha. Marsha said that they and she's in the space for restaurants, or she's been in the space for restaurants using technology, and that there are the Chipotle chips are robot made. They're made by like robots in the
Okay.
kitchen. So they fry them and they do everything at the Chipotle with these robots that make the chips.
Okay.
And so that is an example of technology, not artificial technology, but technology taking a job because
Yeah.
there's not getting paid to flip
Well,
chips.
you could say it's taking a job, but how many jobs are created that need to make the robot?
Yeah.
Thousands. So the one job for the robot that does chips, like, do you really want a job making chips?
So to counteract, there's the you can build a strong economy based on going all in for your embracing of artificial intelligence, and I'm sure that there are going to be lots of software companies, lots of hardware because yeah, server. I'm assuming servers are going to be being built. You talked last week about Elon buying chips, and
Yeah,
so there's
Elon's.
factories that are going to be building those. What
Yep.
about how can I build a strong how can I not an anti-AI but I would think that with the surge of artificial intelligence and technology that there will also be a surge for high touch and boutique level
Yeah. So
experiences
the question
and
then becomes, so number one is reading about ChatGPT. Number two, or reading about AI. Number two is start using it. And then number three is, to your point right now, what can we do to become indispensable so that AI doesn't take your job, if that was actually a concern?
yes.
And the answer to that is make art. Great book, Linchpin, Are You Indispensable by Seth Godin, covers that through this automation process, can you make podcasts with AI? Yes. Can you make podcasts with lighting? Yes. I wouldn't try to make podcasts without lighting because people wouldn't be able to see. At least you're not going to do a video podcast. So if you're going to use a microphone, that's technology. Lighting, that's technology. A cell phone, a mixing board, the internet, a YouTube platform, or what's our little thing that the aggregator that puts it up to iTunes, Blink,
Buzzsprout?
Buzzsprout.
Yeah.
Yeah, Buzzsprout is an aggregator, right? All these tools are there to try to make possible doing something that wasn't possible before with the ease or the shortness of time. So we could probably find a way to use AI to make this podcast. Um, but we don't. This is a human function. We're creating art. Andrew was actually taking me to school on it a minute ago when I was griping a little bit because we don't have more people watching the podcast. And he's like, we're making art. If the goal is to make art, then that's what we're doing. If the goal is to try to make money or try to do subscribers or anything, I mean, we want increase, we want growth, right? That's the main thing. But he's absolutely right. We're making art here. There's no computer in between the lens, which is capturing real light produced by these lights, that's hitting our face and clothing. There's nothing in between that. It's just air.
Hey, I've had to come to learn that I better put on some makeup because
I should probably start putting on makeup. Let me tell you, 50 years old.
there's no filters on these
That's right.
cameras. And
How old is this milk?
well, and that's what I would hope that this podcast could do, at least this episode, is I want to be able to encourage those, not, I don't want to take sides on good or bad, or I want to be able to encourage those, like, hey, if you're a non-techie, high touch, like super tactile artist person, there is something that for you in this upcoming economy as
Oh my
well.
gosh. Here's the when I say make art, what I really mean is storytelling. The reason why a podcast works is because we're telling a story. And a story is going to have a story arc to it, right? In the beginning, hey, how's it going? In the middle, ooh, AI. Watch out, robots are taking over. And then at the end, there's resolution to it. They're not really taking over. They're just turning you into a human cyborg with empowered skills mentally that you have access to if you want them. But at the end of the day, there's nothing. If you look at how much work is created in order to create an AI system, an AI computer, like that's humans are way smarter than that because
Yeah,
we're the ones creating it.
yeah.
Which is greater, the creator or that which gets created?
Well,
It's
always the creator.
always the creator is greater. Always, right? People, as like people used to say, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, obviously, the chicken came first. God created the chicken, chicken created the egg, right? You ever see an egg try to lay a chicken? And people say, well, I don't know. Chickens come out of eggs. No. God created the chicken, chicken created the egg. God's greater than the chicken, chicken's greater than the egg. That which gets created is always less than the actual creator. So if people are actually creating, human beings are creating AI will never be greater than that which was the on the creation side. And so all the computers in the world, all the chips in the world cannot explain, they cannot duplicate, they cannot create human life, but human life can create AI. So why would we be worried about it? Only because we don't understand, which is why I say we need to read, we need to use it and get familiar with it, and then understand the role that we have as human beings in a post AI world, which is to make art, tell stories, communicate with human beings, communicate with your subconscious by dreaming and holding the line on the dreams that you've held. AI can't dream. AI can't do anything unless you prompt it. A human being is autonomous. They don't need any prompting. They will do of their own accord. They have their own initiative. AI can only be programmed to have initiative. And even then, it's not really initiative because they had to be programmed first. The system had to be programmed first. So, an autonomous human being who is self directed, who has the will to persist, who can beat all the odds, who can survive in conditions which are unsurvivable, who can accomplish things that are unaccomplishable, who can create things that are uncreatable. The human being is the single greatest creation on God's green earth. And AI is simply a tool to make our experience on this earth that much easier, that much more automated, that much simpler. And effectively, all technology is really for the same thing, which is it's all for the same reason, which is to create enough productivity that man has free time to think.
And part of this month that we've been focusing on each of these top stressors and like combating them is that it would be our desire to encourage you that are watching and you that are listening that Are there gonna be jobs that are gonna be replaced by AI? 100%, but there's always been jobs that are replaced by new
Cars,
technology,
the
whatever
internet,
that is. We
smartphones.
we went from the record to the CD, and we went from the CD to the MP3, we went from the MP3 to streaming, and within all of that, we've had to, new laws have been set. They've had to figure out the music industries had to figure out the proper way of distributing for making sure that the artists get paid. And so, yeah, things are going to change. And as long as you don't fear change, and fear being the, key word there, as long as you're not fearing that there will be a change coming, there's always change. Life's about change. And we want to encourage you that it's okay. You'll be able to change. You'll be
Yeah,
able to
think
grow.
about smartphones. The value that's come to humanity through smartphones is orders of magnitude more than the value that's been extracted. I mean, I can work from home. Why? Because I have a smartphone. If I don't have a smartphone, I have to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of hours driving to an office.
Think of how many lives have been saved by having a GPS device on their person,
Yeah,
like being found, simply
yeah,
people being
100%.
found.
So,
And so there's so many benefits to change. There's so many benefits to technology that you don't need to be afraid. No one listening to this needs to be afraid or concerned about change and our changing world that we're living in. But with more wisdom and more education, and hopefully continuing to open up your mind to the possibility, how can you make AI work for you?
yeah,
How can you solidify your position in your job to where maybe you become a specialist in whatever you're doing, or maybe how can you turn your job into a position to where you are indispensable in what you're doing, and they wouldn't even think of letting you go because of the value that you're adding. And I know, Jeff, you're a big advocate for adding value and encouraging people to just start adding value wherever they're at.
yeah. Do things in a certain way. Uh, Wallace D. Wattles wrote Science of Getting Rich in 1910. And he said, if you're going to be successful, you got to do things in a certain way. You want to be thinking about increase. AI will allow people to create hundreds of millions of dollars of net worth in 24 months through trading, through building, through buying, through brokering, through all kinds of things. And so, if you just think in terms of increase, you'll realize that the single greatest advancement in the history of mankind has been artificial intelligence. We cannot even begin to fully comprehend how amazing it's going to be to live to 115, 120 years old because we have a doctor who makes every single decision about what we need to do to improve our chances at longevity. Every decision they make is correct for a 30 or 40-year run. We're taking all the right supplements, eating all the right food. We're having angioplasty done when it needs to be done. We're having surgeries that need to be done. We're having appendixes taken out before, like bacterial infections, all these levels, blood. Like you'll be able to do blood work on a weekly basis, and they'll tell you, "Oh, you got to move the needle a little bit on this. Oh, your iron's a little low," and it'll be a single prick. Boom, you'll get everything you need from it. Like it is such an unbelievably exciting time to be around. And I feel fortunate to be 50 because I lived in what effectively will be the Stone Ages prior to AI. And I'll have another 50 years, hopefully more than that, in the post AI world. And as a result, I feel like I'm standing on two separate universes, like Spider-Man holding the Staten Island Ferry together. Like I can feel the pull from two different universes. On one side, the universe that my dad was raised in, where these things were science fiction, and on the other side, my children's era, where it'll be everyday life.
Well, it's certainly exciting, and I'm glad that we get to use this platform to talk about stuff like this because, you've got me thinking about it. I'm thinking about that question about surgery, and, we've gone so far from, I mean, totally, unfortunately, bacteria ridden. The more human bodies you get into a operating room, the
More
risk
risk of
and
bacterial
the
infection,
bacteria
cross
and the
contamination.
death. I think that, AI and having artificial intelligence and having robotic, the least amount of people in a room performing a surgery in the
I
most
agree.
clean of a room
I
is
agree.
going to be
Cross
the
contamination is
best answer to longevity in humanity. And it is exciting to see where things are going, and to be able to move forward without fear, I think is just going to be the key to overcoming stress in the area that you might be concerned about job loss, period, whether it's AI or your neighbor taking your job. Like, let's not, let's hopefully go with both a positive attitude towards 2025, that this is going to be our year to create and dominate for our families and for the future. So
I agree.
thank you, everybody, for tuning in this week and having such a lively, awesome discussion and helping me to see AI clearly. Next week will be our fourth week. It'll be the last week of the month of January, I believe, in our podcast, and we'll be covering the fourth.
Political
The
upheaval.
fourth is the community division. It's actually the division, how that is the fourth top stress in America, is the division of the community and the breakdown in the community as a whole because of politics and just not being able to agree on anything. So tune in, share, like, subscribe.
And we'll see you next week.
Love ya, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers.
Bye.